Hey, what's going on everyone? This is Mike Kollin at MikeKollin.com. Okay, so not sure how this video is going to come together. It's kind of a group of random thoughts. Not just random thoughts, but really powerful realizations. In fact, I know there's one that all of you have asked at one point in time. It's been asked on YouTube videos. People have posted the same questions. So I finally figured out what happened. So I was listening to a YouTube video. This guy was talking about a similar subject, but he didn't quite get it. It's like he was just off left of center and he didn't quite see what was going on, although the subject he was talking about was good. So I started having a bunch of realizations. Okay, so here's what I'm talking about. We have all wondered, one of the questions when we woke up to narcissist abuse, when we were like, what the hell is that? When we were awakened to this abuse, and what it was we started to see the patterns. Now in the beginning we didn't quite make that connection yet, although we were even talking about it. We were sharing with it about this. I'm just going to cut to the chase. All right, so the question that has been asked by a lot of people is, by myself even, is how do all of these narcissists know how to do the exact same techniques and the same patterns and the same strategies, you know, from the love bombing to the devaluing to the ghosting to the hoovering. I mean, it's this constant cycle, and within each of these steps of this four-step cycle, they do the same or very similar, almost exact techniques, and you're like, wait, what's going on? Did they all go to the same university and study this for 4 years and get their bachelor's degree, and then now they got sent out to the world? So, number one, these types of beings, I'm not going to call them people because they're really not, they're not people. They're not like you and me, for sure. And this does go all the way back to biblical times, to the days of Jesus, and even before Jesus. It really was the whole reason why Jesus came, was to wipe this out. You know, a lot of people, if you haven't read your Bible closely enough, I mean, it's right there in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. It's not hidden. It's out in the open. It's been in movies. It's in the Chosen, what do they call it? The Chosen One series on YouTube. Jesus flat out says, he goes, I did not come to, how did he say it? Like, to bring peace. He said, I came to divide. He goes, essentially, there are those of you within families that aren't really a part of that family. Like, you are not like them at all. I'm here to pick those people out, to separate the wheat from the chaff, or from whatever. And he said, when I come back the second time, I'm coming to be the lion, as a lion, to devour. So this whole idea of peace and love and harmony, that's not what Jesus says at all. You really should read the Bible. We are at war. The older I get, the clearer I get. Well, really what it was, when I saw it with the whole narcissist abuse thing, I was like, oh my God, like, it's satanic, and it is clear as day. So number one, yes, they come from satanic origins, for sure, sincerely, respectfully. Here's another thing I noticed about 4 or 5 years ago. I think this was probably even further than that, probably 10 years ago. I started to, okay, all right, so when I first started business many, many years ago, you would just put a line ad in your local paper or the area, the greater area. So I lived in between Sacramento and San Francisco at the time, the Bay Area. And all you had to do was place like a back page ad, a 3-line ad with a title, and if you paid an extra $5, it would be bold, right? So it was like $5 a line or something. So by the end of the three lines, you'd have a title and then like a sentence or a subtitle, and then maybe your phone number and a way to contact you. Okay, back then I think it was essentially just the phone number. It would be like, call Mike at, and then whatever phone number. Or at most, you could buy, say, a quarter page. Like there was a weekly paper in San Francisco, no, in Sacramento, and every now and then I'd pay like, and it was pretty cheap. It was about $60, maybe $80 for an entire month of a quarter page ad, which was a big ad at the time. So you would put like a title, a paragraph of information, then a couple bullet points and contact number, and that was it. It was really simple. And then when I'd advertise in the San Francisco Bay Area, there's a couple main weekly papers which got a lot more traffic. So I started advertising there because I got more business. And it would be literally each of these papers, East Bay Express, San Francisco Weekly, and The Guardian, I think is what it was called, if I remember right. You would just put a 3-line ad on the back page, again, title, subtitle, and then contact information. And that phone would ring off the hook. I mean, I had clients all the time, constantly. It would ring 3, 4, 5 times a day. And then came along the websites. I remember in high school when I took my first computer class. Yeah, believe it, but I lived in Napa Valley, so it was kind of a wealthy area. So back then, in the 80s, the mid-80s, we were like the first generation that got, I mean, literally, I was in the first class of the first generation of the first year of the first everything. And I got shoved into this computer class, which I really didn't feel comfortable with, but I took to it, and it was kind of easy, and got a good grade in the class, etc. And I remember this was told to us up until about 15 years ago, maybe 10 years ago. I remember that first day of class, the teacher said the computer is the equalizer. It is going to make it fair and equal for the small businessmen to advertise and market their business and to get customers and on and on and on. And this was the equalizer. Now you don't need like a $250,000 budget to market your Nike, you know, what your Nike shoes or whatever. You don't need to have a big corporation. Now this is the equalizer. Well, we went to the college. They said the same thing. And then I remember, I can't remember the name of the store. They went out of business about 15 years ago, but it was the computer, I think it was called Computer USA or Computer something. That was like the main computer store, especially in California, where everyone would buy their computers. And you had to go in there to learn how to use Word, and they would literally give you a certification. In fact, I still have like 3 or 4, maybe 5 certifications. You could take these different classes and like, hey, you can go to any business and show them that you know how to do Word, Excel, and there's a couple other ones. I can't think of them right now. And they'll hire you because of that. And I was like, oh, cool. Well, I had no interest in working for another company. I just want to learn how to use my own damn computer. And again, they said the same thing. The computer is the equalizer. It's going to help the small businessman, you know, get his business off the ground, blah, blah, blah. And there was a class in college where the teacher said the same thing. Computers are the equalizer and blah, blah, blah. And it just never came to fruition. It was not true. The other thing they told us was it's going to simplify everything. It's going to make it simple. Computers have not made anything simple. It's so confusing. It's overwhelming. It's a burden. So about approximately 20 years ago, maybe 18 years ago, websites were becoming pretty prevalent. The internet was growing, and it was growing fast. And I resisted it. I was like, nah, I don't know how to do that. And so it was kind of a overwhelming project. And so I'm going to stick to my 3-line ads. They're working. I'm making money. I'm having fun. Oh, the other one was the Learning Annex. You could put you put an ad in that. It was generally about a paragraph or 2 and a couple bullet points with contact. But the Learning Annex would actually set it up for you. Like they would tell you where the workshop's going to be. And they had their own magazine where that's how they advertised, and they took a chunk of money. I think it was like 20% or 25%, but it didn't matter because they got you more clients than you could imagine coming to these workshops. So it was easy peasy. So I'm speaking at Hewlett-Packard. I spoke there 4 times. They kept inviting me back, and I was going to real estate agents, and I was doing these workshops through the Learning Annex, and life was just on fire. So things started to slow down, and a friend of mine who was in a similar business said, look, you really have to get a website. I mean, everyone wants a website. If you don't have a website, they don't take you serious. So I paid for someone to design a website. It was a really sharp website. It looked professional. It was a great website. And I was getting customers through there, but it was about 25% of what I was doing before, and I was kind of pissed. Okay, I was fucking pissed. After a year, I blew up at her. I remember I met her at a coffee shop. I go, look, I just want to meet with you for 5 minutes. That's it. I gave her $100 bill cash, and I go, will you please just show me how to get customers? And she goes, Mike, I don't think you understand. Like, nobody knows how to do that. She was a Filipina, and she did a great job, by the way. She was a web designer and did a great job, and she had her own little marketing crew, like social media experts, not web designers, but people who did the graphics, like graphic designers. She had this whole system, and I had worked through them, and they had done my social media and done this and done that and improved the traffic, but it didn't get people calling the phone. It didn't get people walking in the door, and I was like, do you want more money? And she's like, Michael, it's not more money. She goes, you could give me more money, but it's not going to do anything. She goes, I don't know what to do. My experts don't know what to do. So I left her the $100 bills and kind of winked at her like, yeah, right, sure. Because I really didn't, I actually believed that they could get me more business. And I think I figured, well, I'm just going to have to make more money, throw more money at her. But it really did come down to, like, she goes, Michael, we don't know what to do. And she ended up firing that whole group of people after another couple of years. And she goes, it's not working. So I began to realize all of this, how to explain that, I was not the only one going through this struggle. Like, she's like, Michael, all of my customers are going through the same thing you're going through. They are pissed. They are frustrated. They don't know what to do. And I went to the Small Business Development Center, and I met with people there, and the people there were saying, I'm going through the same thing. I used to have so much business. Now it's like I'm struggling to get one customer a week. So then YouTube comes along, and it's all about YouTube, and you know, I resisted that for a little while, but then I was like, someone's like, you have to do this. So it's kind of hard doing a YouTube video. You don't know what you're doing, you don't get it. It's overwhelming, confusing, and they have all these classes and webinars and all these buttons, and it was like, what the fuck is this? And then they're like, hey, it's all about blogging. You got to do YouTube and blogging. So I just blogged like a psycho. Because I took typing in high school for 2 semesters. And I could type pretty damn fast, like 75, 77 words a minute or something. Like, I was a fast typer. And I thought, oh, I can do that. That's not a problem. So boom, I took to blogging. And I actually enjoy expressing myself in writing. And I enjoy writing. I took college classes, English writing, critical thinking, etc., etc. And I excelled at them. I've always excelled at writing since I was a kid. And so that I took to. But where's the customers? Now, you got to understand, I took Tony Robbins sales training. I did sales training through other businesses. I've read books on sales training. And then I started doing marketing. And then I started doing business and this and that. And you're putting the pieces together. Yet, little to almost no results. So after years and years of doing this, watching all these webinars on how to do a blog and how to do this, and they kept talking how Google's going to copy your pages and do this and do that. And then and I do not, please, this is not political, please do not go there. That has nothing to do with this. But Obama had made that center, I believe it was in Colorado, with all the massive computers that were just copying and people's phone records and recordings. And so here's my point. I started getting the image, not just image, but the understanding of, oh, I see what's going on here. They're literally gathering up all of our information. So here I was thinking, like, well, that's not fair. Here I've, spent decades of my life studying my ass off. I used to read every day for hours. I used to listen to audio tapes of psychology courses, NLP, Ericksonian hypnosis, timeline therapy. I mean, I would just listen and study and go to all these trainings, and then you have to go out and apply it, and you learn from doing. And now they're just taking it. And I realized, okay, so even this audio or this video I'm making right now, it's going to be recorded and downloaded into the AI system. The AI computer learning system is learning at a very rapid rate. And I mean, it is, I don't think it has quite passed the human's mental brain ability. Not yet. It's getting close though. So if you go on YouTube, you will listen to these, and it's funny because it'll be biblical studies, and it is an AI robot with a very masculine, handsome voice man speaking blah, blah, blah. But after a while, you're like, oh, that's a robot. I've heard this voice before. And every now and then they make a mistake here and there on diction or the way a word's supposed to be pronounced, or they'll use the wrong word, like such as is or it or whatever. And you have all these spiritual people or Christian people listening to a freaking robot teaching them about God and spirituality. It's like literally this is the Antichrist. Literally. What are you doing? We essentially are slowly being trained and conditioned and controlled by the robot gods. They're learning how we speak, how we talk, the way we think, and that is the part that the AI system's having the hardest part. Like how do you actually process information like a human? That's something they're having a very hard time with, because they're trying to copy Joe Rogan, and they'll put Joe Rogan's like videos, but the words don't match up with his mouth, and you could tell like, oh, this is kind of blurring the lines. It's like, oh, that's not Joe. Joe didn't actually say that. But in the beginning, a lot of people were falling for it. So they're essentially trying to copy humans. And they are gathering up all the information. I mean, it's like, you have to imagine if you could go to Thailand and just massively gather up the way they speak, their language, the way they think, the way they do their culture, the way they do their science, the way they do their math. You just absorb. And then you go to Japan, and then you go to China, and then you go to Thailand or Taiwan, and then you go to, Russia, and you go to all these countries. You just massively gather all this information in one brain, and now you have all these computations going on, and all of a sudden you understand knowledge that you never even knew existed. And you have more pieces of the puzzle than anyone else in one system versus being separated in all these other systems that aren't even connected. To me, it's very scary. It's almost like, what's the purpose of having humans here anymore? One of the last narcissists I dealt with, it was an empty robot. And I'm kind of wondering, okay, seriously. You know how they talk about they're putting those computer chips or whatever in human brains, and they're kind of being Robotroned and all that stuff. And I kind of wonder if they've been doing this for a while. Because the one thing that we all noticed, like there was glitches in the Matrix, like what? Like they didn't make sense sometimes, to the degree of like, what is this, like a robot like malfunctioning? Like what's going on here? And they'd be like, oh, okay, sorry, correction, like Robotron, like you could just like, what's going on here? Like it was so bizarre. It wasn't like someone who has a stuttering problem or someone who is retarded, and I mean that respectfully, I don't mean that in a bad way. It wasn't like that at all. It was like a computer glitch. Linkin Park, it's a band, if you haven't heard about it, they came out in the 90s, really popular band. Chester Bennington had died, he passed away. He did kill himself, and for sure it was narcissist abuse. When people finally learned about his childhood, we were like, oh God, it's a very sad story. So 7 years later, Linkin Park is now back. They came out with a new song and a new lead singer. It's a female now. And she's actually pretty good. At first I saw her live, I didn't like her at all. I just thought, oh, okay. You know what? Part of it is your heart. Because Chester Bennington, he would like scream these lyrics out, but it was from his soul. It wasn't just yelling. And it was like crying. And it would make you cry a lot. So he touched a lot of people's hearts, and he brought up a lot of our own childhood pain. And now this new girl comes along, and at first a lot of people had a lot of resistance, because it's almost as if we were, like our loyalty to Chester was being challenged. And everyone's saying, oh no, she's not replacing Chester, she's not doing that. And there's like a lot of people trying, it's like we're trying to almost justify, I don't know what the word is. I think what it really is, it's almost like we have to let go of Chester. So I think it's challenging emotionally. But they have a new song out, and it's called The Emptiness Machine. And isn't that exactly what it seems like the world's going through, especially narcissists are just like this emptiness machine, and then you start to feel empty and dark inside, and there's this sense of loneliness. And of course the song is powerful. It's like a rock ballad, but it is emotional, and the way she sings is, it touches your soul. Let me read some of the lyrics and see if you can identify. Your blades are sharpened with precision, flashing your favorite point of view. I know you're waiting in the distance, just like you always do. Already pulling me in, already under my skin, and I know exactly how this ends. I let you cut me open, just to watch me bleed. Gave up who I am for who you wanted me to be. Don't know why I'm hoping for what I won't receive. Falling for the promise of the emptiness machine. The emptiness machine. Sounds like narcissist abuse, doesn't it? Like 100%. It's like you're getting drained, like the life is getting sucked out of you and you're left empty. Alright, let me go back to the lyrics. I'm going to back up a little bit. So the very beginning, your blades are sharpened with precision. Yep, that's like a narcissist. Like everything is pre-planned and pre-thought out and rethought. And then it says flashing your favorite point of view. Now, this is an important thing why I keep telling you to let go and back up and expand your awareness, because you get stuck in one perspective, one point of view, versus seeing all the perspectives and all the point of views. When you step all the way back and see the bigger picture, like, well, look at all these different possibilities versus this one. And that's what narcissists do. They get you stuck on one tiny single point of view. And this is life. This is the way it is. No, it's not. So let me continue. So it says, already pulling me in, already under my skin. And that's exactly what it feels like. Like you're getting sucked into this freaking dynamic, this limited view, this precision perspective of way of looking, like this one perspective. And it's like they get under your skin. It says, and I know exactly how this ends. I let you cut me open just to watch me bleed. And that's exactly what it feels like. It feels like they just literally rips your soul, your solar plexus open in your heart. And they sit there and watch and they smile. And then it goes on to say, gave up who I am for who you wanted me to be. Does that not sound like narcissist abuse and what they do? Don't know why I'm hoping for what I won't receive. Falling for the promise of the empty machine. Well, that's breadcrumbing, where they make these false promises. They call it future pacing, not future pacing, but they call it future faking, where they make a promise, or hey, we're going to go to this concert in 6 months. I bought the ticket. They may have actually even bought the ticket, but it was really because they just wanted to keep you coming along. They want to keep you coming down the path, or they say, hey, you know, in 6 months I'm going to do this for you, and we're going to do, and they never even begin the project. It's a load of bullshit just to keep you around. It's fake promise after fake promise, and they give you a little bit of a breadcrumb to keep you around. So let's wrap this up. So I started to realize where narcissists are learning their tactics. It's like, why do they all do the same thing? And where are they learning this from? Are they going to some kind of university or school that none of us know about? Like is it inbred in them? Like, what is it? Like, you know, it's one thing to be like a predator, but to do the exact same techniques, it's just bizarre. Whether you're from China or Japan or Alaska or the North Pole, how is this possible? The television, my friend, movies, magazines, stories, songs. They see something that you don't. It's there, you see it, but you don't look for it on purpose. You don't grab it. In fact, if anything, you would be usually repelled by it. Disgusted. Not them. Oh, they see another gem. And they also look to other people and watch how they hurt people and go, that's smart. And they grab a hold of that. Alright, so when we were kids, I believe this was definitely back in the 70s. There was a movie that came out called Mommy Dearest, and the main character was, let's see, Faye Dunaway. Frank Parents, yeah, Faye Dunaway. Hold on, let me do something. Or Joan Crawford. So I get two different things. Say the adopted daughter of the Academy Award-winning actress Joan Crawford, etc. So I think it was both actresses, but regardless, so it was a really terrifying movie. Now I can laugh at it now, but back then, man. So my mom decided, okay, we're all going to get together. Literally got us popcorn, I think even candy, even sodas, and we're going to have a family night together. And we're going to watch Mommy Dearest. Now, this was a movie about a woman, a mother who was violent, who was psychotic, who was what we would call a narcissist for sure. And she would beat the shit out of her children. Now, we're watching this movie, and our mom is just, it's like she is entranced. She's like, wow, she just loves this movie. And we're all looking at her like, what the fuck? Like, we knew. When our mother started grinning when the children or the kid or whatever in the TV show or movie was getting beaten severely, the yelling and the screaming, and we knew. Oh, it's coming. Now, nobody did anything wrong. Nobody got in trouble at school. Nothing happened. But we're watching a TV show, and this is the way life is in her brain. There was a point when I think in the TV show they grabbed a wire hanger and was beating the children. And I remember our mom looked at us out of the corner of her eye like with this evil anger, like, like I'm going to get you. And we all looked at each other like, oh my God. And it was not only that, but there was a look of moments throughout the movie where it was almost like, see, this is the way life is. This is normal. It was almost as if the movie was affirming the way she'd been treating us for all these years, and she felt this sense of, see, I'm in the right. And it was almost, what's the word, like a prequel to, it was a prequel to what's coming next, and man, did it come, and it came with a lot of heat. And in all sincerity, the wire hangers were used, and back then those were thick wire hangers. It was no joke. You know, as a kid, you learned really fast that, because it was like, well, what did we do wrong? Like, you learned really fast, like, you didn't have to do anything wrong. No one had to do anything wrong. This was just the way life was. And she never said we did anything wrong either. She never accused us, never blamed, nothing. It was just, it's time to get beat. Except this time, the movie brought in, what do they call it? The prop of the wire hanger. Except in our case, in real life. So it was like the movie ended and she kind of she faded away, walked away as if she always did that. And then an hour later, whatever, I don't remember how much time passed, but she came back with a storm and she was pissed and she had all this stuff prepared out. And it was just, she was living out this movie. And I started watching her whenever like a new TV series would come on, that she would start to do the stuff that was in the TV show. I mean, as a kid, I used to talk to one of my siblings about it, and I pointed out like, oh yeah, I've noticed that. You know, like, sure enough, some new thing came on TV, and we knew, like, oh God, that's what's next. Now, there's another one. You guys ever heard of the movie called Lord of the Flies with Brooke Shields? And I forget the other male actor. But it was a pretty big movie back. I believe it was in I want to say the 80s. And one of my siblings watched the movie with absolute delight, and I hated it. I couldn't. I remember we had a choice between reading that book and one or two other books. in English class. I don't know if it was 8th grade or 9th grade, and I did not choose that book because I did not like that Lord of the Rings thing. It was essentially a movie about a bunch of kids that got, I don't know, shipwrecked on an island, you know, somewhere way out in the Pacific or whatever. And they were lost and nobody knew where they were at. And the kids were running this society, and there was a lot of fighting, a lot of abuse, a lot of, you know, joining groups and ganging up on the other people and beating them up. And I think if I remember right, at one point they'd actually killed 1 or 2 or 3 of the other kids off. And the rules they made were really sick. It was just children, teenagers, not even teenagers, young, like 12-year-old kids trying to make up this society, and it was really a brutal system. So one day, a couple years later, maybe 4 or 5 years later, so I was probably 16, 17, maybe 19, I don't remember how old I was, somewhere in there. And one of my siblings had said, "Oh, I loved that movie." And I was like, "What?" They're like, "Oh, that's my favorite movie of all time." I'm like, "Why?" So he had pointed out all the mind games, the abuse, the manipulation tactics, the fear tactics, the intimidation stuff. And I was like, "And you like that?" "Oh, yeah." And I was like, "What the hell?" That was really dark to me. I was just like, "Oh, you got to be kidding me with this." So that's what I'm saying. Like, I hated that movie. The movie with Faye Dunaway, the Mommy Dearest. I hated that movie. And my mom, she spoke of that movie for years. And she loved the actress. And I think in real life, the actress was kind of a evil, witchy kind of person as it was. And again, I might be getting in. I Googled 2 different searches, and it comes up with both Joan Crawford, Faye Dunaway. Or maybe that's what it was. She was acting. Joan was acting as Faye Dunaway. Anyways, I forget the technicalities. So all I'm saying is this. Narcissists, when they're very young, they are looking at how other people abuse other people. They are looking for it. They are watching. Okay, what are the steps? Step 1, step 2, step. They're figuring it out. They're like, well, how do they set them up? How do they do that? They'll even ask questions. They'll even rewatch a movie over and over to figure it out. They're looking for control tactics, gaslighting tactics, abuse tactics, and they're learning it through the TV shows and the movies. Even in romance novels, there's a lot of mind games going on there, a lot of trickery and manipulation, and this is what narcissists. This is what stands out to them. This is what they see. This is what they look for. Whereas you and I was like, "Oh, that's so horrible," and you kind of tighten up to where you're like, "Yeah, I don't want to have nothing to do with that." Whereas narcissists like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to use that technique. Oh, I see how they're doing that." So there you have it. It really is that simple. And you'll notice the patterns if you go back 20, 30, 40, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 decades. You start to notice how people treated each other and how it shifts from decade to decade because the movies and the stories begin to shift. And the teachings within the stories shift. So now you're seeing the patterns. You're waking up to what narcissists do. You're waking up to narcissist abuse patterns. One thing I want to point out is because they're so empty inside, they don't know how to live life. They don't know what's right or wrong. So they go, "Oh, this is what the movie shows, so now we have to reenact this in real life." Isn't that absolutely nuts? So they're watching a show that it's obvious it's about abuse. But they don't take it like, "Oh, so this is the way you treat your children. Oh, okay. Now I'm a good parent. I'm beating the crap out of my children with wire hangers because that's what Faye Dunaway did in the movie. And she's famous, and therefore it must be right." I'm glad I could help you guys out on that. So I'm in a kind of a goofy mood today, but it is a bizarre thing, and we're letting these people run the show. God bless you guys. If you enjoyed this video on any level, please click the like, click the subscribe button, make a comment, and if you want, there's a PayPal donation link right there in the description box. God bless you guys. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.